Well, the documentary The Road Between Us was the focus of both protest and praise at this year's Toronto International Film Festival.
You know, in a way, I need to trust the IDF that they will do their job. I was there for 35 years. But this is an instinct of a father. Something in my gut feeling told me, no, go, go, go. And basically, from that on, I'm on a mission to save my family. As simple as this.
The film follows the real-life story of a retired Israeli general on a mission to save his family during the October 7th attacks. And now it's getting wide release. Jason Gorber has seen it. He is Metro Morning's film columnist and editor of That Shelf. Jason, great to see you.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. I think this is our first ever chat, so this is kind of a nice treat for me. It's a nice treat for me. But so this film, I have not seen it, but I've read a lot about it. I think a lot of people do know about it, but let's sort of, before we kind of jump into that, for our listeners, kind of remind us a bit about the film, but also there was that controversy around TIFF.
Barry Avrich, Toronto filmmaker, for decades has been making documentaries with various modes of success. He's been very successful, sort of telling relatively straightforward stories. I think it's a fair way to put it. And then managed to get the story of his life to tell. Noam Tibon, a former Israeli general who, when October 7th happened, realized that the army was not going to be rescuing his kid that had been holed up in a kibbutz. As people were coming over the Gaza border to actually attack their kibbutz. And him and his wife drove down to rescue his son. Along the way, all kinds of things happened. They rescued other people, etc. It becomes an action-adventure story almost, told in real time by the witness himself. And what Barry and his editors put together is an extraordinary film that actually showcases almost in real time what happens, using not only footage from like traffic camera footage, but also footage live streamed by those that were doing the attack itself. And so by synchronizing it all, it tells this story that the film goes out of its way to try to be quote unquote non-political. In other words, it's a story of a father rescuing his son and grandchildren. But of course, everything is political, and of course this film gets wrapped up in all of that. The backstory of what happened at TIFF is that it had been programmed and then unprogrammed and then reprogrammed, and that hundreds, if not thousands of people were both protesting and championing this film without having ever seen it, just based on its subject matter alone and who the film was about and who the film was by, rather than actually, for what I think is absolutely integral when you have any of this stuff, is to not go in with whatever your bias or prejudice is, see the film and then engage with the conversation. And more importantly, don't stop others from seeing the film that they wish to participate in the engage. We have very strict laws and directions in this country about people saying things that border on hate or anything that would be that kind of problematic. But a film festival fundamentally should be a place where varying views and viewpoints are showcased, and for one group to arbitrarily decide that another group doesn't have the right to see something, or for programming to be made on the basis of something being simple, like, oh, that one's going to have controversy, so we're not going to show that. There were plenty films from various ideological spectra at the festival, but this is one that got overwhelmed by this greater discussion. If the film was terrible, it absolutely shouldn't have been programmed. If it was poorly made, it was aesthetically bad. If it was another bunch of silliness, 100%. But the fact that this film was not only good, but actually went on to win the People's Choice Documentary Award, showcases not only that this film is worth engaging with, but also that this entire controversy sort of ginned up a situation which was completely unfortunate and something that TIFF very much has to look at itself. We're now done TIFF. Now you have an opportunity to go to theaters, see the film, and actually engage with the film and come up with your own perspective about what this film actually does, which for those that are super supportive of this, in theory, are going to be very surprised about what this film actually showcases.
And there's a Toronto connection as well with regards to the director, right?
Yeah, Barry's major Toronto guy. He's been on the board of TIFF. He's been on the board of Hot Docs, which is, again, a whole nother conversation and complication. That is not surprising. A ton of filmmakers in Toronto have very intimate connections with our cultural institutions. That is not abnormal. But what is made more complicated here is the fact that this story became overwhelmed by greater geopolitical things, whereas the simple thing would have just to have been to have showcased it and just allowed it to be showcased along with the dozens of other films about the region that take radically different political spectra of this. To be clear, what is radical about The Road Between Us is its lack of radicality. It is by being the story of a father rescuing his son. Yeah. It avoids Tibon's own background as not only a general in sort of when he was stationed near the West Bank or up in Lebanon, but the fact that his son is the chief correspondent for one of the correspondents for Haaretz, the left-leaning newspaper. The fact that the father's job is to get work for Arab Israelis in his retirement. In other words, all of that stuff, which is a big conversation, is not part of this documentary. This documentary could be about any family asking the question, what would you do as a father, as a mother, if your kids are under attack?
Before I let you go, quickly, your sense, you watched it. What was your sense in terms of how audiences received it?
I saw it before the audiences saw it. I know a lot of audiences are receiving it based on their own proclivities. I would love a general audience to go see this and experience it and recognize that the story itself is narratively quite big, quite bold, and again, I think it's a strong film. Do I think it's the best film? Do I think it should have won People's Choice Documentary? Probably not. But I think that this controversy speaks not only to, sure, this controversy has elevated this film and got more people talking about it than anything. But now people actually have the opportunity to see the film. And it is the talking about it before they've ever seen it, which has been super challenging. It's been challenging, frankly, for years of discussing all of these elements. People with a little bit of knowledge is sometimes a little bit of a dangerous thing.
Yeah. Well, I'm definitely going to watch it. And I think, to your point of sort of the way that's been described, watch the film, take it in for what it is, and then I guess, decide from there. It has been lovely chatting with you. Happy Friday to you, my friend. Jason Gorber, Metro Morning's film columnist and editor of That Shelf. Thanks, Jason.
Thanks so much. All the best.
That Shelf.